and multiple surface assets covering an area of approximately 160 miles. Coast Guard Air Station San Francisco Forward Operating Base, Point Magoo, MH-65 Dolphin helicopter crew was involved. 2 45-foot response boat mediums from Coast Guard Station Channel Islands Harbor. Coast Guard Cutter Narwhal, home ported in Corona del Mar, California, who has been relieved this morning, and a 45 response boat medium has been called in her place to maintain on-scene commander. The National Park Service, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, Santa Barbara County Fire Department, Ventura County Fire Department. Again, our hearts, our thoughts are with the family and friends of the victims. Our total search time for our efforts was just below 24 hours. The Coast Guard will continue working alongside our partner agencies throughout the recovery and now investigation phase of this incident to try and determine why this incident occurred and what we can learn from this tragedy moving forward. We will work in concert with the National Transportation Safety Board, who is here with us today. That concludes my statement.
Mark Hartwig, County Fire Chief, Fire Warden. As this community continues to deal with the unfolding tragedy and as this incident really turns into a search and recovery effort, the County Fire District is committed to, on behalf of the County of Santa Barbara, expending all necessary means to find out the cause and origin of the fire aboard this vessel in the County of Santa Barbara. We're sensitive to the fact that families are gathered today, some from outside of the area, to bring their loved ones home. And in many cases, will only be faced with the ability to know that we recovered them, and then will rely on us to do everything in our power to find out what happened aboard that vessel in the last moments of these family members' lives. That's our commitment.
Mr. Speaker, and whilst I welcome...
We'll keep you posted as we get more information.
Matchbox as Secretary of State once again. The announcement of any additional funding for schools is welcome, but there has to be more clarity and detail about this money. Teachers in England have been undervalued and underpaid for far too long, and whilst the government's announcement in teachers' pay...
Never forget the pain in hearing the change in the search and rescue to a search and recovery effort. The Family Assistance Center remains open, will be open throughout the day today, ongoing through Thursday from 9 a.m. till 6:30 p.m. We'll extend hours and days as needed. The Family Assistance Center is set up as a place for families, friends, loved ones to come safely and get information, to get resources and referrals, and to get counseling and support. I want to thank our media for understanding this and helping to create a safe place where family members know that they can come and get that support. We really want to encourage those that have been directly impacted to use this as a resource to come and get support for yourself, your families. It's also a place where you can come and join with other families who are sharing the same loss. The Family Assistance Center, as you heard from Sheriff Brown, is staffed by a broad team, by the Department of Behavioral Wellness. We have local clergy and chaplains. We have the District Attorney's Office present, American Red Cross, Hospice of Santa Barbara. We have fire, police, sheriff, Coast Guard will be joining us today. So really encourage families to utilize this resource. And our county information call line remains available as well. The number is 833-688-5655. 5551. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take some questions right here.
Captain Rochester, I'd like to ask you a two-part question, Captain. First of all, clarification for me, I have many of my colleagues, are vessels like this required to have some type of smoke detector on there? And my second question, more or less an explanation from you, for people who don't understand, what does it mean when you go from search to recovery? What are the implications? What does it actually mean?
Okay, the first question is, are these types of vessels required to have smoke detectors on board? And that is correct. They are required to have that in all berthing spaces. And the second question was, what are the implications associated with moving from a search and rescue operation to a recovery? And that is, we have made the determination based on current information that as far as deliberate search and rescue efforts, they have ceased. So that means the Coast Guard will not necessarily be tasking any of our boats or our helicopters to continue to be looking for victims. And so that transitions into the recovery phase, as the sheriff mentioned, for the victims. Please just one at a time.
Quick question for you. Can you explain what did the crew tell you about how this fire started and the frantic moments that followed?
Okay, what did the crew tell me how the fire started and the frantic moments? I don't have any of that information.
What did they tell the Coast Guard? It's been 24 hours.
The Coast Guard is presently in the process of investigating and interviewing those folks with the National Transportation Safety Board, so I don't have that information.
They were able to get to a dinghy in order to save their own.
I know that based on the Mayday call that came over. That's my collective information.
Has anybody spoken with them since they were rescued?
I believe the Santa Barbara detectives were spoken with them. Let me transition to this gentleman here.
What they did say to you, is that
Nobody said anything directly to me. Okay, we received the Mayday call over Channel 16 through our sector command center.
At this point, are you assuming that all 34 passengers did not make it?
That would be a correct assumption.
And can you elaborate? There's been reports that they were possibly locked down in the sleeping area. Is that accurate?
I heard that, and that's actually, quite frankly, that's actually on our recorded call for the Mayday. I personally have interviewed that radio watchstander as well as the manager of the floor for this particular incident. A lot of activity was happening, as you can surmise, coming over the communication system, over our radios. A lot of adrenaline, a lot of confusion. And I think my best deduction is the member was the radio communicator was trying to ask for information. There are no locked doors in accommodation spaces aboard these vessels. It's open berthing. And the only privacy that you have, and I'm sure that you've seen, because it's on the vessel's website, are curtains. That's it.
Likely that they were trapped by the flames on top.
I would suspect.
Along those lines, the Mayday call also indicated that perhaps there wasn't a fire extinguisher on board, or there was a question of that. Have you learned anything about that?
Okay, this vessel is required to be inspected annually by the U.S. Coast Guard, and it has been in compliance with all federal regulations. It is required to have not only fixed firefighting system, but also portable firefighting systems.
The term explosion was mentioned yesterday as a possibility. Are you going there to say that that did occur? That may have been one of the first things to happen versus the speed at which how this fire started?
I'm sorry, let me take that a little bit. You were asking my comments
Mr.
to
Speaker, we need to beware the smoke and mirrors. There's been an 8% cut in per pupil funding, so an inflation increase.
Okay, that's all under investigation. I don't have any confirmation of that.
Are they required to have a night watch, and was there a night watch?
That is also, the question is, are they required to have a night watch or a roving watch? That is also under investigation. My understanding is on the regulations that is correct.
One more question. Is there a possibility that you may not bring the boat back up?
I don't have that information right now. What I can offer to you is we are creating a salvage plan to ensure that, one, first and foremost, is the safety of the responders, the divers that are on scene, and to ensure that, if the vessel is inverted and upside down, it's going to have equipment hanging down on it. So we certainly don't want to put our divers in any kind of distress or harm's way. So that salvage plan, working with the owner, working with the sheriffs, will be forthcoming. We don't know yet. I heard some, yes.
Captain, where was the Mayday call made from? Was it made from the Conception, or was it made from another vessel? And can we hear from the NTSB about their investigation?
I believe the Mayday call came from the Grape Escape, which is our Good Samaritan.
Recognising the demographic change that different parts of the country are experiencing to make sure that we have a provision of school places. And we've seen over 1 million school places created over the last 9 years, and no doubt more will be needed in the future.
Yeah, the Honourable Lady for Manchester Central is invariably the winner of the biggest smile competition. Lucy Powell.
I do try, Mr. Speaker. Can I welcome the Secretary of State to his position? We look forward to giving him a good grilling at the Education Select Committee. Hopefully that will be fairly soon. I do welcome this announcement. It's long overdue. But can I ask the Secretary of State about the crucial early years, and particularly our maintained nursery schools, which he hasn't answered? Their funding runs out very, very soon. They are the jewel in the crown of social mobility.
Mayday calls actually may have gotten conflated. There have been released
Lady for her kind words, and she raises an important point, and I did take the opportunity to visiting one of those maintained.
When a Mayday was put out and there was information that the person couldn't breathe, and then subsequent to that there appeared to have been other Mayday calls that were put out by the Good Samaritan vessel that was nearby. When some of the clips from those calls have been shown on the news, they have been sort of put back to back with each other, which kind of indicated it was the same conversation, which I don't believe was. So just to take that in context, there may be some conflation going on there. In addition to that, the operator of the Good Samaritan boat that rescued the 5 crew members, he indicated to the media that he heard some explosions that were occurring, but that would have been well after the fire was underway. And as I indicated yesterday, that could have been propane bottles or scuba tanks that could have been blowing up in the fire as well. So there's no indication at this point in the investigation that there was an explosion that preceded this fire or this event.
Surviving crew members have been interviewed, so you must have some indication as to how this fire started. Can you share that with us?
The question was, since the crew members have been interviewed, is there any indication, can we share with them what happened? We do have statements that have been written by the
but it's only a start,
crew members,
and it's only for 1 year.
Will be interviewed formally today as part of the investigative process, but since the investigation is ongoing, I'm not at liberty to release any of that information right now. Question was
he is a very distinguished lecturer himself, and has inspired many pupils in the course of his career before entering this House. And I look forward to having a discussion with him in terms of how we can deliver the best possible investment to deliver the best outcomes for all those children in further education.
Jeremy Wright.
Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State's announcement of additional funding is very welcome. But would he agree that because governors and head teachers need to plan in advance, almost as significant is what he has said about the predictability and understandability of the funding system? And will he ensure that as the system is designed in detail, he keeps his eyes on making sure it stays so?
My right honourable friend makes an important point, and I know he represents a county that has historically had funding challenges, and he has always campaigned to get that issue addressed. I'm pleased to be able to do that. I will take his words very much to heart and make sure that we keep that clarity and simplicity there, as well as always making sure that schools have as long-term a view as the funding that they will be receiving.
Stephanie Peacock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Barnsley, we have lost nearly a third of our teaching assistants and school support staff. As a former teacher, I know the vital job they do, yet the Secretary of State didn't mention them once in his statement. And despite his warm words in answer to my honourable friend's question, we've still got no firm commitments. So can he rule out today funding these plans by cutting